Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Art, Design, and Conversation. We've been going through this year, talking to several people from different backgrounds and different disciplines. And today we have a very special guest, a very close friend of mine, and somebody I've worked with in the past. I will save the introductions, but before that, let me give a little background to all of you about Art, Design, and Conversations and what is it that we try to do here. So, a little bit about ourselves. My name is Sandeep Hota. I'm the co-founder of Bhubaneswar Experimental Art and Design Studio Beats, which is a design studio that's based out of Bhubaneswar. We create elegant, ethnically inspired, and environmentally friendly products that are very craft inspired. And we start with a very firm belief in the power of art and design to make people's lives better. So please remember this line because there will be elements of this as we talk about it today. Our products are handmade, they're contemporary, they're toxin-free, and they come with zero plastic packaging. And our vision is to inspire lives with inspiring design from Orissa. This conversation series started a year and a half ago, I would say. And it lies as an exploration of the different methodologies and motivations that underlie indigenous craftsmanship and design. So we try to explore how craft items intersect with our daily existence and environment, particularly within the framework of contemporary design ideologies and an emphasis on sustainability. So in this series, we try to talk with accomplished professionals from different disciplines of art, design, architecture, and seek to unravel the ecological and communal consequences associated with rapid growth, urban growth, and mass manufactured goods, and also try to underscore the importance of native artisanal traditions and the transformative role that such traditions can play in our modern life. So a little bit about ADC, a little bit about beads, and now it's time to introduce a very close friend of mine. So today our guest is Aadish Nargunde. And Aadish, welcome to the show, and just a little bit of bio about what you've done in the past. He's an expert in architecture and urban planning and designing, 14 years of extensive experience working across India. He's designed luxury hotels, exquisite villas, and he's been part of India's first international financial service center, Gift City, which has been in the news recently. As an expert in urban planning, he excels in innovative designs and state-of-the-art technological solutions. His belief is in making cities more livable and artistic. His expertise spans placemaking initiatives, transit-oriented development, and the curation of public art. He has a master's in planning from the Faculty of Planning and Public Policy from CEPT University in Gujarat. He's worked with Uday Joshi and Associates in Bombay and Ladakh with Ladakh Ecological Development Group, researching groundwater levels. And he's also been, like we just mentioned, a manager in the Gift City project. But his biggest body of work has been with the Arcadis IBI group for over 7 years as an urban designer and manager in Bhubaneswar's smart city implementation. Today, Aadish operates out of Pune as an independent consultant. And Aadish, welcome to the show. I'm very glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, and the entire Beats team. Always a big fan. The work you guys have been doing, phenomenal. Love to be friends with you guys. So, very happy to be here, and I hope this will be one of the usual conversations about art and public spaces and whatnot. So very excited.
Yeah, so many of them, and we in fact both of us gave a presentation in the Malraux seminar talking about some of these topics. So it'd be good to kind of revisit some of those points that we've talked about in the past. Before we dive into all of it, I read your bio, very formal and all of that. But question I ask all of the guests who attend the show is, what prompted you in the line of architecture? How did you decide to get into this particular line, and Just talk us through a little bit about the inspiration and background of this.
Uh, so yeah, I am uh, a Marathi fellow. I belong to a place called Sangli,
Right.
and I come from a family where I have had three architects and two civil engineers in the
Right.
very close knit family. So I've been into this field very from the beginning of my whatever academics,
Right.
let's say. So it was kind of fascination, and उससे भी ज़्यादा ऐसा भी था कि शायद उतना ही पता था तब. Now
Right.
that I have traveled a lot and then met folks like you and made friends with, I know there have been lot of things that I might have done. So there was purely limited exposure plus something that I had seen closely from the childhood. I liked that. So that's how I entered architecture to be
But
very.
was there a point where it clicked कि हाँ मुझे architect बनना है? Because you know, like in India, we all have this stage in life कि क्या बनना है, right? And was there like something that inspired you or somebody that inspired you that wanted?
I can't recall anything of that sort, but like I said, my dad is a civil engineer, my uncle is an
Right.
architect, my grandfather was an architect. So I have been on the multiple site visits with them. So it was always
Yeah.
fascinating. कि यार मेरे को भी
Yeah.
करना है. And I used
Yeah.
to see those magazines, A+D and whatever interior and architecture magazines.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff from there used to be fascinating. And yeah, I mean, these are two reasons I say. I didn't know
Yeah.
much else than this, and this was the only thing which was very loudly known to me. So I just
Calling
jumped
to
in.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you joined CEPT and such a premier institute, and we all hear about CEPT and of all the great architects who've
Yeah.
passed out from there, like how was your experience in CEPT? How was what struck you first? You know, how was your journey through that?
So CEPT was the game changer or one of the most important milestones of my life. So I did architecture afterwards. I worked in two years in Mumbai in an architecture firm where the clients were usually filthy rich ones, and then the giants in the software industry or real estate like ILFS and whatnot. So while I used to work there with my team, I always had a lot of questions, and those questions led into conversation with my seniors there. That kind of prompted me that I would enjoy much more if I go on to a field which allows me to explore a lot of bigger ideas and not limit myself into a site, which is an architecture perspective. So that's how I went across and found that wherever I can fit in. CEPT was kind enough to let me in, and it remolds one, I would say, as an institute into a complete different thinker most of the times. So we were told in the very first semester, I remember very vividly, a good planning school kills an architect inside or within.
Right.
So इतना भी नहीं हुआ मेरे साथ, अभी भी आर्किटेक्चर से प्यार तो है, but yes, it definitely changed the perspective of looking at things, particularly the way we everyday interact with our cities, surroundings where we live in, and learned lot many things. And the real university was after the CEPT, the professional world. तब पता चला क्या है जो सीख रहे हैं and जो actual ground पे हो रहा है, क्या difference है, how one needs to meet the golden mean, that kind of an approach. So it was super fun, no doubt. Yeah.
And then like doing planning was a choice. Like you were intrigued by how cities work and urban planning, and that's why you chose.
Correct.
And then in your journey, like you were just mentioning, you worked in different areas before you came to Bhubaneswar and spent a substantial amount of your time here.
Yeah.
How was that bit like Ladakh, the gift city? What were your learnings when you worked into those areas?
So Ladakh was a very small stint, I would say. It was hardly 3 months. It was an internship. We went there purely with fascination, seeing my senior from CEPT, उनका Facebook देख के क्या यार उस जगह अपन भी जाएंगे, वो वाला था. And I guess that was the time when Three Idiots was also released. So some of it we had seen, the Pangong and whatnot. And when I went there, I call Ladakh for me was a second most important milestone. तब
Mhm.
तक I always behaved and belonged to a very well-to-do family जहाँ मेरे को
Mhm.
किसी चीज़ की टेंशन नहीं है.
Mhm.
Leh Ladakh, when I roamed, my work was to set a baseline study for groundwater levels and how
Right.
tourism is impacting on that. So we used
Yeah.
to have a daily interaction with so many locals, and that's
Right.
where I realized that life is very difficult. वो वाला
Mhm.
realization hit करता है, काफी spiritual और फंडे
Yeah.
वाला लगता है, but
Yeah.
actually it happened that food and water, उसका जो कीमत है वो थोड़ा पता चला वहाँ पे. And then,
Right.
of course, I met with lot of diverse people from different nationalities and was able to learn from them how they perceive the world. So that was really
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Gift City was super duper hi-fi technology driven work. A lot of
Completely different from
completely
whatever you did.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just क्या fresh from the oven बोलते हैं वैसे बहुत कुछ
Mhm.
करना है बहुत कुछ करना है वाला attitude था, and had a
Mhm.
fantastic mentors team,
Yeah.
and we were all almost same age group. Some were from IIT, some were from IIMs and whatnot. So it was completely Meri bat, Meri ball. I don't
Mhm.
like this. I can change this. So
Right.
I mean, to an extent, not entirely, of course.
Yeah.
But we were given that kind of freedom. The point I wanted to say here is,
Yeah.
and again, that is one of the rarest times of any urban planner where you draw that plan on piece of paper or whatever software you use, and down the line 6 years you see those things on Google Map and Google Earth. So
Mhm.
that gives you one different sort of kick and sense of achievement. It's not
Yeah.
very often very common for my field that आपने
Yeah.
कुछ सिटी का प्लान बनाया, वो बन गया, अप्रूव हो गया, आपके जीते जीते इम्प्लीमेंट हो गया, वैसे के
Yeah.
वैसे, and
Yeah.
then you're
So
kind of
now
now
when you see
seeing,
everything in
yeah,
news,
the feedback, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
extreme proud feeling, and there were a lot of debates कि ऐसे नहीं होता वैसे नहीं होता. So being through that, I learned about technology integration with urban planning and design. You can't
Yeah.
separate those two things as engineering, infrastructure, urban
Yeah.
design, landscape. No, it has to be consistently seen together. So
Mhm.
how it could be done through technology, I learned that. I learned finance part of it a bit. I learned administration and governance part of it. So which
Yeah.
helped me in my later career phases in Bhubaneswar, that how governance could be better, how the model of special purpose vehicle works better than the conventional urban local bodies. And that's the first time ever in my career I kind of toyed with the public art concept. So I
Yeah.
got an artist from Delhi, I guess, Vibhor Sagani. He
Mhm.
has done remarkable work in stainless steel. So I got a chance to work with him. I even remember approaching Anish Kapoor and that stature of artist who had
Yeah.
worked on city scale. Unfortunately, maybe something didn't work out, so we couldn't have him on board.
Yeah.
Then I worked with a couple of other artists, come architects and designers in Ahmedabad, and we designed a plaza in Gift
All
City
right.
with
Okay.
a theme of economic evolution of humans from the Stone Age eras to date when you could buy crypto and whatnot. Like nowadays
Right.
we have UPI. When this was
Yeah.
designed, UPI was like way beyond anybody's
Mhm.
imagination. This was pre-monetization.
Yeah.
The
Demonetization.
demonetization. Sorry, days. So that was quite a fun, and then learned how the greenfield city uh, could be shaped, and then I experienced also that things that
Because
we
Gift
had
City at that time there was nothing there, which is
it was a kind of barren land, ravinous barren land,
okay.
laying idle with government of Gujarat. So yeah, that's all about it.
But then you have a lot more latitude to do things there, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's some advantages of
Correct.
having that kind
Correct.
of project.
And then also learned that how the international, national policies and geopolitics impact
Right.
any city. So till then
Right.
it was always in books.
Yeah.
Economics वजह से ऐसा होता है वगैरह
हाँ,
वगैरह.
हाँ,
वो
हाँ.
देखा actually that how the
Yeah.
tussle between that times ruling party at the center and at the state, the vision of two different parties, how it impacts one common person like you and me, our lives, etc. So that was quite a different eye opener sort, and
Yeah.
it was fun. I mean, we had a
Yeah.
great team. Yeah,
So, I mean, if you look back at Gift City, I'm drawing things like, so you had the chance to do something completely greenfield, do some planning around it. You had a chance to look at technology in a completely different way because you're able to use technology in the planning aspect. You're able to look at finance and what drives the financial considerations of
yeah,
building a city, and also policy and politics,
yeah,
both both aspects.
yeah.
So a huge learning as you kind of stepped into your next phase of life, I suppose.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, first, I take these kind of projects as once in a lifetime. I don't know
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the rest of my career if I'll ever get a chance to work on such a significant project. I mean, today only
yeah,
I saw a LinkedIn post of my ex-colleague about they launching a different set of IT infrastructure because the
right.
one which I had designed happily got full and it's earning more than what it was supposed to in terms of
Brilliant.
rental. So it's IT rental. And then
Yeah,
a lot of other urban design guidelines, how the city form should come in, how to bring in life in between Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad, this barren land of what some thorny shrubs and all. So the learning was insane. And then
yeah,
we had two different perspectives. There was one which is purely government perspective to it, and since
yeah,
it was a JV with ILFS, it was on the business side of it. And let's do things that are never tried,
yeah,
better than the best kind of a thing. And the government side was always pushing us to make sure it is equitable. You're not stealing away somebody's livelihoods and stuff
yeah,
like that. So that balancing act while doing the design work
yeah,
was really helpful. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like when we look back, even in our lifetime, we're seeing so many greenfield cities, like like Gurgaon's come out from
yeah,
nowhere.
yeah,
You have the example of Gift City. I think Amravati is going to be something that's going
yeah.
to come up in
It
Telangana.
very soon, I guess, it will
And
be
in
that.
Saudi Arabia, they're doing this really crazy project called Neom,
Yeah,
and the line, which is just insane, the
correct.
kind of futuristic thinking that's going into it. So now, when we're looking at all these projects, you come from there and you come to a city like Bhubaneswar, which was selected as the first proposal in the smart city project. So for the dummies on this program, what is a smart city, and what was your understanding of what a smart city was when you walked into this
Mhm.
program?
Hmm. So conventionally, or if you Google or do quick Wikipedia search, what is smart city? It will
Yeah,
link directly to use of technology to make life better, easier, safer, and whatever superlative adjectives of
right.
our day-to-day lives. For me, smart city in Indian context is more to do with the approach that we've been taking to resolve our conventional challenges. So
Right.
the smartness I feel has to be in that approach. Right. वो बोलते हैं ना कि
Right.
if you try and resolve a problem with same attitude or solution, you'll never resolve it. You need to bring
Yeah.
in new innovative ideas. So that is something. And of course, one good thing that happened with the Smart City mission in 2015 is the ministry itself, the government of India, the federal
Mhm.
government brought in people at the very center. Like
Right.
as a planner, technically speaking, all our planning efforts are meant to be around people, no doubt.
Mhm.
So कोई भी प्लान बनता है कि आपके
Mhm.
शहर में ये सड़क जाएगी, आपके शहर में ये फलाना होगा, ढिमका होगा. So by law, it is to be set out for public suggestions and objections. नहीं करो, करो, बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत ठीक है, बहुत अच्छा. So it has been happening, but it has been so low key that most of the elite and most literate people wouldn't even know about that, despite of their high education and societal status. The smart city thing made this as a crazy event for the entire city. So हर कोई जा रहा था, बोल रहा था मेरे को टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए, मुझे अच्छा ट्रांजिट चाहिए, मेरे को हेरिटेज बचाना है, XYZ. And
that all went into that proposal, which
yeah.
kind of highlighted.
So it's mandated, no, that you have to have this level of public consultation mandatory with proofs and show it that people have actually said. So Bhubaneswar had done remarkably well. So
Yeah.
that time Bhubaneswar was what, maybe 9 lakh, around that population.
Yeah.
I'm speaking
Yeah.
of 2015, almost 9 years or 9.5 years ago. And some 3.5 lakh people participated in these kind of events, wherein they told, I want to put transport as the most important element of Bhubaneswar city's growth. Not
Yeah.
heritage, not public art, not greenery, nothing.
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal. And for me, this attitude of keeping people and looking in a different angle to solve the conventional challenge is smart. So how to use मतलब अपने पुराने शहरों में कोई भी ओल्ड टाउन में जाओगे तो वो जगह दिन में अलग तरीके से यूज होती है, शाम में अलग तरीके से यूज होती है, रात में अलग होती है. सो अहमदाबाद का एग्जांपल मैं हमेशा देता हूँ. देयर इज प्लेस कॉल्ड मानेक चौक, एंड मानेक चौक इज यूजुअली gold and silver jewelry market in the morning with some cotton market and stuff like that. In the late evening or early night around 10, it converts into a food market, food hub, food street kind of a thing. And it's so bloody vibrant, I can tell you, like amazing. So this is the smart use of a same space, and then everybody is, what they call as win-win situation. So there are so many livelihoods created here. There are so many different flavors you are offering to anyone about the same space, about the city. So for me, this is smart.
So it was just beyond, it was not only technology, it was also the way you looked at spaces, the way you repurposed those spaces, and how people interacted.
So even Kala Ghoda, अगर मैं बात करूँ, जो होता है February sometime or late Jan in Mumbai, I would say the entire way festival is curated a really smart way, because you bring in people from long distances of the MMR, and then they are enjoying on the street, they are singing, they are experiencing the talent, local, international, whatnot. So that space utilization is very smart. Now you use technology to make it better, but technology is an enabler. You can't depend on technology to take people out of the cars and walk them. So the smart city initiative, the whole game started in 2015, was so well designed, in my opinion, that it attempted these kind of things. That आप सिर्फ फ्लाईओवर पे फ्लाईओवर बनाओगे तो गाड़ियां ही आएंगी, बट आप फ्लाईओवर की जगह अच्छी बड़ी चौड़ी फुटपाथ बनाओगे तो लोग चल पाएंगे, लोग चलेंगे. उसके साथ साथ आप बसें ला रहे हो यूजिंग स्मार्ट सिटी मिशन फंडिंग, तो उसका नेटवर्क बेहतर होगा. तो लोग जाहिर सी बात है कार में जाना क्यों पसंद करते हैं, बिकॉज यू आर जस्ट सिटिंग, यू आर रीडिंग अ न्यूज़पेपर, वर्किंग ऑन लैपटॉप इन अ फैंसी नाइस AC safe bus, and you're reaching your destination with just a little walk. Maybe you're saving a lot as well at the same time. So that was the whole idea of smart city mission, I perceived, and I'm very glad that many cities took it that way as well. And some technological solutions to make city governance easier. That is something again phenomenal that was attempted. So creation of a single web portal where you have all property payment done, and all your taxation related to urban areas done, your registration of birth and death, marriage certificate, whatnot. Previously, I remember my dad telling me, "आज municipality जाना है, ये करना है." मैं मेरी जिंदगी में कभी नहीं गया हूँ. सांगली में नहीं, अहमदाबाद में रहा, मैं नहीं गया. भुवनेश्वर, ठीक है, I used to go there for work, professional work, not my personal work. So
I mean, that kind of digital infrastructure is also the thing that kind of underpins it.
Correct.
We revisit this whole smart city thing, but the way we started interacting and the way we started having these conversations was the idea of public art became big in the Bhubaneswar smart city kind of scope of things. How did the idea germinate? How did you guys decide that we wanted to do some large mural projects? Just give us a little bit of a history of what happened with that.
Right. So I what do I say? I joined the race a little later than its very conception. Let's just say, I'll be very honest. But whatever I've learned in these 7 years is, public art has never been new, right? It has got momentum and different perspective with the smart city and all the social media, everybody tagging each other and all that. But I remember as a child seeing, चलो दिल्ली से लेके शिक्षा अभियान and क्या तो भी, in a very cool way, at times in a very rude way, which should never be referred to as an art. And then there were always sculptures, statues, prima facie, of the leaders or great figures from the history and so forth. So the art has always been lingering around in places like Bhubaneswar, which has significant history of art and performing art and whatnot. Like we have like all the Kalingan architecture, and I can't just cover everything in this time also. इतना ज़्यादा है. So वहाँ पे भी ये सब तो होते आया था. I have seen the photos from before 2015 also. On the roadside, on the Rajmal flyover, there were like these tribal paintings done on the
Sora paintings had been done.
वो सारा होता था. What it started to attempt in 2017 or somewhere around that is, can this be part of the difficult government procedure? Because so far it has been on the patronage basis कि आप sponsor कर दो, because how do you justify rates of art in government system, right? It's just still a challenge, but somehow that times commissioner figured out a way, and then he decided to empanel several artists. I guess that's when we interacted for the first time.
I mean that was the first instance of the stamp project.
Correct, stamp project, street arts and murals project. So it was a very plain, simple thing कि ये सड़कों पे, ये दीवारों पे, ये फ्लाईओवर के नीचे कलर लगाना है, which is different than the usual.
But when such a proposal was written, what was the reasoning given, and why do we need to put a public art project in there? What was like from an urban planner's perspective also?
I'll tell that. So important thing that time we were attempting was how to attempt certain things in a quicker manner and with a greater impact. So there were quite a few examples across the world. One thing I remember is Ugly Indian. So I guess this is a group in Bangalore. So they used to do things like guerrilla artwork or kind of that. What they would do is they would clean up a space overnight. They would put something very colorful, very catchy and attractive, and then appeal the locals कि देखो ये इतना सुंदर हो सकता है. The space, for example, below a flyover need not be only to abuse by urinating and dumping garbage and whatnot, anti-social activity. So this could be really beautiful and usable, and this is the identity of your place, locality, city at the end of the day. So these were very inspirational things for us. We were also very much happy to see a project in the US which is called Project for Public Spaces, PPS, it goes by short form. And Fred Kent and I guess Ethan Kent, if I'm not with the names, they had started this long back. So the US, the entire North America had this notion that everything is car driven and you are not letting people walk or play. The neighborhoods are not safe. Burby, as they call, are becoming antisocial hubs and drugs and whatnot. So let us do it our own way and let the community take charge of it. So the community started saying, we want this street purely walking street for the entire weekend. We want to just sit over here, have a cup of drink, a cup of tea, and
placemaking.
Placemaking, and that was super exciting for us. It was never attempted in India because Indian context, what were the hurdles? भाई पहले design करो, 10 लोग approve करेंगे, फिर उसका tender निकलेगा, फिर 4 लोग आके bid करेंगे. ये process में 6 महीने खत्म हो जाते. Till the guy who is supposed to implement would come on. So the public art that we saw with Ugly Indian in Bangalore, the Project for Public Spaces in the US, and similar other initiatives in Europe, we realized that art could do that magic, which is like first reclaim that public space from the heaps of garbage. Second, make that space look a little better in terms of aesthetic. It's not scary. कि मैं यहाँ से कैसे जाऊँ भाई, मैं रात को 10 बजे, लड़की हूँ लड़का हूँ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, बट मेरे को डर लग रहा है वहां से कोई आके चेन स्नैच कर लेगा, क्या होगा. सो दीज काइंड ऑफ सोशल एलिमेंट्स वुड बी टेकन केयर ऑफ बिकॉज इट्स वेरी अपीलिंग, इट्स अ गुड आर्ट वर्क, इट्स वेल लिट. So it was not just about art, dumping an art piece there. A lot of other things happening at the background. So that,
but as an urban planner, I mean, if I can push this a little bit further, as an urban planner, do you believe, or do you did you feel at that point of time that having an art piece at a junction which was insecure, or a junction where there were issues in terms of traffic management, or a junction at which there was issues in terms of other planning ills, just having a artwork would resolve that, or would there be other design interventions that should go hand in hand along with the work to make it more effective?
I guess you said it yourself. Yes, the later one is the right approach, that it can't be just artwork, but there are always constraints, so to say, and limitations. So one has to steer through that and start doing things at least somewhere, rather than wait for that the perfect moment to arrive and then do something. So that's the kind of approach we chose, I guess. That शुरू तो करते हैं, देखते हैं, गलत होता है तो it's not gonna be disastrous in terms of public safety or hurting somebody's sentiments or not. So these important elements we had considered and went ahead with first cleaning and reclaiming that public space from the all social ills, then making it very decent in terms of छोटा मोटा civil work करना है, and then installing some artwork. Prima facie, that time it was all about paintings. So paintings के ऊपर we have had quite a lot of argument. That time I remember तुम कैसे ऐसे decide कर सकते हो कौन सा painting कहाँ होना है. So it's still very difficult a topic to say loudly, say confidently which is right and which is not right. But as we evolved from 2017 in the second edition 2018 and in the last edition 2022 and 23 combined, we have had significant improvement in the approach that was taken to go for which public
what changes did you see in the different editions?
So in 2017-18 the artworks were like, okay, artists को involve करो, empanel करो through a government procurement procedure which was expression of interest prima facie, decide a per square feet rate for their artwork and for the labor work, and then pay them. So the artists were supposed to tell, okay, I'm going to paint Baba Saheb ka photo, I'm going to paint Maharaj ka photo, I'm going to paint abstract which showcases India's space, success and whatnot. And then couple of people from the bureaucracy, from the technical backgrounds, they were formed as a committee. They would approve it or disapprove it, and it was installed. In 2023, as we learned many things, we realized, or rather we were able to convince the administration that this approach needs to go a lot more scientific, a lot more methodical, and relate with the place. So if it's a Sachivalaya Marg, which is the powerhouse of the state, all the state headquarters of banks, the institutions, legislative assembly, secretariat, airport, everything is on that road. So it should represent that way through the art, that it has evolved from one of the first planned cities in the country to one of the smartest and best possible livable cities in the country. So how that journey has been. So if I'm a stranger arriving from any flight and I'm driving towards Pattaya on the Sachivalaya Marg, I should be able to get that sense, okay, this city has this also, the state has this also, and not just merely because हमें पट्टचित्र आता है तो बस पट्टचित्र ही करना. So no disrespect to any art form at all. I love पट्टचित्र, no doubt. I love all the art forms there. But then there has to be relation between current day affairs, the city life, and then the art form. So what we encourage the artist is, आपको पट्टचित्र is a format of art that you want to use, go ahead, use it. Use that as a tool, but depict contemporary art in the Pattachitra art form. Why can't we think like that? So I remember this artist, क्या नाम है? यंत्र मानव या ऐसा कुछ तो उसका, दिव्युष जना. So he had done a very cool work using Pattachitra style of art. Now there would be, of course, discourse about it. ये तो गलत है, ये तो तौहीन है, and all that. But he attempted that. So he had made Iron Man using Pattachitra style of art. So one such example I'm giving. So we were able to curate which kind of theme should be there in which area with relation to the locality. So
Right.
Kit and Patia side, which is a very youth and pubs and lot of educational institute and the most rapidly growing upcoming area, what kind of artwork should go there? And then versus Governor House side, where the most elite dignitaries come, the impression of the state is formed many of the times looking at the public realm there. So what should be the art form? So we had a good debate there, and we gave these options to the public at large. We conducted online voting कि भाई बताओ ये option से कहाँ पे क्या art होना चाहिए आपका. And then they told
How
us,
was the response?
response was very sad. I mean, for a city of 12 lakh, when we post certain things from government's official websites and social media, we got merely some 350 kind of responses.
Right.
But then we also learned that, okay, that's the era we are living in, where people are intended to get into these affairs to this extent only. I mean,
Right.
they want to spend hours and hours on YouTube and TikTok whenever it was there, but they don't want to contribute to very simple questionnaire, what you want to see when you're traveling to your office every day.
And did that spark a thought around the fact that, you know, if we are going to choose an area and if we are going to do some artwork in that area, then there is a significant relationship with the community in that area that needs to be engaged in a certain way, so that, you know, that artwork becomes more
Yeah.
meaningful for the community.
Yes.
And hence, if if that kind of sparked some thoughts in
Agree,
your
agree,
way,
agree.
how do we get the community more involved?
Very, very true. Very true. We, I mean,
How did you choose your areas कि इन जगहों पे करना है, इन जगहों पे नहीं करना है?
so every time one is given some amount of resources. For us, it was time and the money. Okay,
Right.
मेरे पास इतना पैसा है, इतना बजट है, इतने आर्टिस्ट ग्रुप्स है, आर्टिस्ट है, एंड इतने दिन है, इतने वीक्स है, इतने महीने है, जो भी है. अब इसमें जितना हो सकता है, I can't paint the entire city. So we chose from a perspective which are the most traveled roads or localities because of the surrounding land use, the upcoming Hockey World Cup, and so on, different criteria as planners that we knew our city better. So we went ahead with those. And then another thing was, we wanted to test these ideas that if it works here, then it could be replicated and scaled out in the similar locale. So these zones that we selected, I think there were 14, 13 zones or 17 zones of different characters across the city. So each zone was representing another 10 zones across the city. So there were neighborhoods with small G+1 kind of structures. There were neighborhoods with, multi-storied buildings. There were institutional areas. There were educational areas. There were sports arenas, and so on. So that's how those areas were chosen. And based on our understanding as planners and designers, we gave options for all these 17 different zones in terms of artistic themes. That's how it went ahead.
And if you look, sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying, in terms of community engagement, we couldn't do in terms of direct community engagement कि ये final हो गया है, आप यहाँ रहते हो, this is where you operate your shop daily. Do you think this is good for you? So that level of interaction for public art we could not do. It's unfortunate, but maybe in coming time we will go next step. So every time of this stamp,
I think as a result of stamp, there's a lot of learning that you gained, and we can talk about that in a second. But even when we did Bhubaneswar Art Trail together, I think one of the first things we realized as a part of that project was the community involvement. Right? That was the one thing that everybody remembers from that project, and how it became a lot more relevant because the community put their backs behind it. Right? So, like you've alluded to, there is a lot of benefit to getting the community engaged in that thing. And so looking back, so there is a journey. So now everywhere we go, there's public art. Like I went to Sambalpur recently. there's a public art project that was happening there that was just finished. Puri, there is a public art project that is just wrapping up. And there's a massive push for the children, schools and hospitals all around the state. They have these public art projects. So you started a bit of a revolution, I think, when you kicked that off with the stamp project. So looking back, if I can push you, what did you think went well? Maybe top 3, and what do you think you could have done better, or you learned as a course of this project? That if you do it, let's say tomorrow in Kashmir or someplace else, you would do it differently.
Yeah. So I guess what went well is we got out of the usual way art was seen in public spaces. Government decided that we want to try hand checking and let me get over this difficulties in terms of procurement procedures and whatnot. That was really good. It opened a lot of huge sector to deal into. What could have been better is making public art a lot more meaningful. That is something I feel is extremely important. You can't just paint sadhus and Bhagwan ki paintings because it's Varanasi. There are people, common people, and there is very strong association कि मुझे काशी क्यों जाना है, So all those things. And then another thing that did not go well is blind adaptation. कि उन्होंने फ्लाईओवर के नीचे ये पेंट किया है तो मैं भी करूँगा. सूर्य नमस्कार करते हुए वो 12 पोस्चर वाले बच्चे हैं तो मैं भी करूँगा. So ये काफी हद तक देखने को मिलता है, which is very sad. There has to be important reason why that art there. What is the rationale behind it? How the locals would start associating with it? Because we are no longer in the era जब तुमने बोल दिया कि हो गया, मतलब वो टाइम चले गया है. Based on these landmarks, the locale would get identity. जैसे फ्लोरा फाउंटेन था तो अब पूरे एरिया को मुंबई में फ्लोरा फाउंटेन बोलते हैं. भुवनेश्वर की बात करें तो क्या राजमहल, that was a hotel. So now you will not get reborn Chakka in Patia, right?
You have Kid Shop.
So it has happened, but then art has that ability to rebrand it, make that local sound appear better, and let people enjoy it much more. So that is something I feel is still missing a lot many places. People have seen Lodhi Garden and the work that Start India Foundation does.
Start India Foundation.
But they've been copied across India like blindly. अरे उन्होंने किया है वैसा को ऐसा करेंगे, but they forgot to read the story behind why this दादा साहेब फाल्के का photo holding that film on the BSNL facade in Mumbai and so on and so forth. Lodhi estate ऐसा क्यों था? How many international artists they had got? How many sleepless nights they have had in deciding why this? So that gets missed. So that is something I would love to do differently, given the chance in any other place that have more meaning, that local could associate with it, and it forms the association of that place with that art, or that art represents that local. Okay.
And I think, such good points. And I think one of the things that we also did as a collaboration was open up a discussion called Art in the Smart City.
That was amazing.
Which basically opened the discussion around art not just being the physical manifestation on a wall, but art in terms of cultural districts, art in terms of interventions in park spaces and public spaces.
Correct.
There was great discussion around how if there was a lake district that was created around the Unit 4 area with water bodies, then that could transform. So, the potential of art to do all of these things. And also, obviously, the Bhubaneswar Art Trail was a great example of how you can create a festival or a fair where you can bring people together on that.
Correct.
So, I think the remit of it was pretty big, and I think we attempted some of it. From your perspective, how important, and you've mentioned Kala Ghoda, you've been to Lado Sarai in Delhi, and So means, how important do you think, in your perspective as an urban planner in Bhubaneswar, since you spent time there, would be like a cultural district? What is your take on it? That this would be an area where a lot of artists would be living and working. How feasible, or how does it sound to you as a planner who's been in that area?
Wow. So, when I remember as part of the 2-day visioning workshop, this was one of the key things that had come up. कि art district करना चाहिए मेरे को भुवनेश्वर में, and I think उत्कल कला केंद्र रविंद्र नाट्य मंदिर से लेके वो ललित कला अकेडमी तक, some area like that was delineated as an art district. I think. So yes, art district in terms of any other city, I'll just give a little broader perspective of mine, is no doubt it looks important and will do wonders to that locality. But as an urban planner, I have a opinion that nobody as an authority or as a planner should get into deciding how it should be, what it should be. Our role is to facilitate, just enable, make the policies and then the space enabling enough that it starts coming up, evolving on its own, and not saying कि यही है भाई, तुम उधर नाचना है, ये तो performing arts वाला ही art district होगा. I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in these things. If it does that way, and if it evolves also, it might do wonders. But I would rather feel that these things are very organic and naturally evolved, as opposed to somebody else coming up and saying aisa karo, aisa karo, particularly in the sense of art. So that is my take. In case of Bhubaneswar, I don't know right now. I mean, can't think immediately which should be the location-wise the art district. But yes, I mean, we had attempted public arts master plan for Bhubaneswar as a draft. That how these kind of art should be seen across, and how the art could be used as a tool for urban regeneration. How it could work wonders in terms of real estate, the land monetization of it, making people walkable friendly city, and so stuff. So I see art as an amazing tool, and then the districts that you're mentioning could be like that puzzle which fits into and forms a very pretty picture altogether. So where and what, it should be purely derived on the existing and upcoming kind of facilities or the land use of it.
Yeah, I mean, there was this famous article called Follow the Drips of Paint in New York Times, where they talked about the fact that usually what happens, and I think I can see some of it organically happening even in today, just to riff off your point, where artists tend to go to a place where the rental is low,
right,
and the availability of larger spaces or spaces to work is ample, right, and they tend to settle in such places, right, and that happened in New York, in the Village, that happened in Old Street in London, same in Paris, in Montmartre, places like that, where eventually what happened, because a creative district got created with all these artists, the price of rental started going up.
The gentrification, we call it.
Gentrification.
Yes.
And then what happened is then they further moved away because the rentals had to move on. So Follow the Drips of Paint talks about how increasingly a creative conglomeration, and like you said, this happened because artists were just looking for cheap rentals to live in because they don't have the money or the wherewithal to do something. And today I'm seeing some of that happening in Kalinganagar and Kokriput, in that area, where some studios are coming up because the rentals are still kind of low, unlike in places like Pattaya. But as a policy intervention, I've seen that in Korea, when in certain spaces, the government has willingly kept the rentals low, and the utilities free, so that artists can take advantage of that space and build it. So there are both ways to do this, but I think it is a question of how urban planners want to look at it, and their masters, I think the government and the legislature and the
Yeah,
administration
yeah,
want to drive it. I mean, that's one way to, I guess, look at it.
correct.
So just to kind of wrap up your 7 years in smart city,
Right.
what would you say your high points were, and what did you think the smart city did really well, and where do you think there was still opportunity to do better?
Smart City did really well.
Like you were satisfied saying, okay, these are things I can point to and say that you did well.
Well, I think it got I mean, not it got, I guess it completely shook the entire system. It attempted to do so. That पहले CDP बनाओ, फिर ये करो, वो करो, typical way of doing development plan, which rarely gets implemented as it was planned, because by the time the planning finished, the city had changed, because planning of such things usually has
Took too
been
much time,
taking
yeah.
10 years and whatnot. क्योंकि उसके ग्रीवेंस आए, लोगों ने बोला ये नहीं, तो सिटी बदल गई. 10 लाख के हिसाब से प्लान किया था, ये बनते बनते सिटी 15 लाख हो गई, XYZ. So that way it was a, क्या बोलेंगे उसको, फास्ट फूड काइंड ऑफ अप्रोच. फटाफट फटाफट चीजें हुई, people got a sense of it. They told this is awesome, they told this is crap, we don't like it, it got discarded, or it was replaced again. So it was super fast, and the whole, like I was using the term, it shook the entire urban governance. Lot of very new and amazing approaches, like Bhubaneswar Urban Knowledge Center got into the picture, and which was very instrumental in changing the way things are seen so far and should be seen. These things are getting replicated, irrelevant to the smart city mission continues or not. So that is something really awesome. And what did not work at times, I would say, is
so the process worked.
Yeah,
the process worked so that you were able to do that tangibly. I guess the urban
few things went well.
Like CRUT was a big change.
Yes.
That was
the entire new bus system that got into the not just in Bhubaneswar, a couple of other places also. Or the use of technology, when you speak of city command and operation center or whatever different terms they've been using, that is amazing thing. That
has materially benefited the city, you would say?
I have seen so many cities, including Bhubaneswar, leveraging that infrastructure at time of COVID kind of pandemic, which was extremely beyond anybody's imagination. Like unprecedented ka bhi unprecedented baap tha wo. So nobody had imagined while planning that infrastructure, but it served wonders. Like we received calls from whatever different random locations on 1924 saying मेरे पापा वहाँ फंसे हैं, उनको कुछ खाने पीने को नहीं मिल रहा है, भेजो, गाड़ियाँ जा रही है. So just imagine that thing in absence of such a thing. Then public safety, the security of tracking of city buses, grievance redressal. So the e-governance side went really well. Some of the infrastructure that could have been much better is something I would want to say that it would have worked really a lot better. But I would not associate it directly with the smart city thing, because वो तब से ऐसे ही चल रहा है. रोड बन रही है, खोद रही है, वो वाला तो चल ही रहा है. Unfortunately,
so what
not get out of that.
Like I remember you were frustrated with the bike trail, you were frustrated with some of the elements around it, and even with I think parks, you guys did a really good job with the parks. But what are the other areas where you think you could have done better, and what is the key reason behind these things not taking off the way they could have?
So what are other things that could have worked better? I mean, I would have loved to focus a lot more on mobility aspect of it. Starting a growth kind of institution in 6 months time, rolling out 200 buses in itself is a huge feat. And then making it a grand success, kudos to the entire group team there. I mean, later I was not involved, but if I see that as one of the smart city things, that is a great success. So it could have been really better. Another thing I personally feel would and should have been main line is city greening and resiliency of it. So making Bhubaneswar a lot more walkable, a lot more greener, I mean, we all witnessed funny million
Yeah.
plus trees just
Yeah.
vanished overnight. My
Yeah.
own home got tarnished and whatnot. But उसके बाद जिस थ्रस्ट के साथ हमें लड़ना चाहिए था वो हम नहीं लड़ पाए. There were many
Yeah.
reasons. I can't kind of blame anyone for that कि ये नहीं हुआ and this is the prime reason and all. But I kind of feel that running a city is like always, what do you say, घर में शादी है वाला खेल होता है.
Yeah.
लिमिटेड बजट होता है, कोई मौसी कोई मामा दुखी होता है वैसा वाला
Yeah.
है.
Yeah.
बट यहाँ पे बहुत सारे मौसी है, बहुत सारे मामा है, तो अपने
So I think that is one thing I've heard.
priorities
I've
is
heard
very
you talk
important.
about quite a
Yeah.
lot, right? Like being in the center of multiple different agencies and departments and getting them to work together is, I think, a central challenge for you. Which at sometimes I understood you felt that as an urban planner, where you should be spending more time planning,
Yeah.
you're spending more time coordinating.
Coordination. Correct.
Yeah.
So that is another thing I had in mind is first the greening and resiliency aspect of it,
Yeah.
and their placemaking with public art could have done wonders. So
Yeah.
towards the end of my क्या बोलेंगे active association with the city as an urban planner in BUKC, a lot of interesting things had started happening. So how to multi-use the school playgrounds or any open spaces and stuff as a reservoirs to let groundwater recharge, and then also active recreational spaces and so on and so forth. So there are policies that are about to get notified and on. Then
Yeah.
how the public realm could become better in terms of safer, legible, some identity to that in terms of child-friendly public space design, जहाँ पे art plays a vital role. कि बच्चे को याद वही रहता है कि अच्छा मैंने वो लाल हाथी देखा था, पर्पल गेंडा देखा था, वहां से मेरे को राइट लेना है तो मेरा घर आ जाएगा. एंड देन किड्स स्टार्ट एसोसिएटिंग विद द लोकल लैंडमार्क्स. वी कॉल इट एज urban landmarks. So each locale should have these kind of small landmarks which are very much associated with the existing urban fabric there. So these things all together would have made a tremendous what do you call impact on the way we see city today. So I'm not denying that there were no efforts on this, but I feel that इसके ऊपर बहुत और मजेदार काम हो सकता था, going way beyond the conventional approach of CDP बनाते हैं. And
I think, I mean, it's fantastic listening to you talk about all of these things. I mean, right now, people who are living in Bhubaneswar can tell you we're going through a real estate boom of sorts. There are buildings coming up everywhere. We've talked about wetland areas. Wetland areas are being taken over, and there is construction happening. And I think it's a product of the fact that there is a massive population boom that is going on, huge migration that's coming from the hinterland into the city, to the point that now they're talking about a triple city rather than just a clean city, including Pune as a hinterland. So I guess the journey of the smart city in bringing in technology to kind of start managing it was the beginning of what is going to be multiple challenges that we're going to face in the coming years. So it's great to hear the perspective. So
thank you.
Any last words on your journey here in Bhubaneswar? Feeling satisfied about what happened, or any last regrets, or you were happy with what happened?
No regrets. Super thankful to the people. They've been very kind and supportive. Fortunately, ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ कि ये आउटसाइडर आके मेरे को क्या बताएगा and all that. So that is a great zeal and empathy the city has offered, and I am very thankful to folks like you who just joined in and were super passionate enough to make a better city. So you come with that art as a key element with you. I met several others on the other aspects. So it has been a fantastic journey I have had. I mean, initially.
And the last question, which I always ask, with your experience and your background, what would you advise upcoming architects, upcoming urban planners from your journey, looking back as a novice who had no idea what to do with their life but wanted to be in architecture and civil engineering, to spending 14 years
Yeah.
engineering, designing cities, seeing cities come to life.
Mm.
What would be your few words of wisdom to upcoming architects and planners?
So one thing which I have observed lately in last 2 years is the young planners, designers are a little reluctant to go that extra mile that our field demands. It cannot be just मैंने report लिख दिया 6:30 बज गए मैं चला. You go crazy if you really want to bring in change. Or else there are so many other opportunities or fields where you could be. But have that passion. That is my only request. And then there are so many amazing tools out. AI, generative AI. Use those tools to do your or get your boring stuff done, and use your brain to do coolest creative work done. And not vice versa. कि मैं generative AI को पूछता हूँ what is the best idea to think of public art. Give me solution for public art in कलिंगानगर. ना भाई, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. वो तुम्हें करना है, उसको दो, तुम तुम्हारा बनाया और रिपोर्ट प्रूफ चेक करने के लिए and stuff like that. So these are two things that go bonkers, totally crazy, passionate about what you want to do. Have that vision. This is something I want to do. Like I always have been telling my colleagues in BUKC, this is a once in a lifetime, that it's not every day that a commissioner and a vice chairman of development authority and a police commissioner or even the principal secretary is giving you a platform to hear you out. You know, it's not common. Doesn't happen every day. So use that. Tell them with stats, tell them with your zeal and passion why it should be like this and why it should not be. So that is something I want to tell all the youngsters. And then there are so many new tools that are coming. Mast maze karo, maze leyo.
Yeah.
That is all.
Brilliant. That is amazing. We had a lovely conversation, Aadish. I would like to open it up to the audience.
Thanks, Andy.
किसी को कुछ सवाल पूछना है, please.
I see a couple of familiar names
known faces,
here.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, please, you have the man here right in front of you. शहर में क्या क्यों नहीं चल रहा है? अगर आपको गाली भी देना है, बंदा
अभी नहीं. वो गया टाइम वो नवंबर में, अभी नहीं.
Okay. Any questions for Aadish? From an artist's perspective, if anybody has any questions. Brilliant. I think, Aadish, you've silenced a lot of them. But it was a brilliant conversation. Love talking to you as always
here,
and
man,
getting
always.
the ideas here.
Yes.
And thank you so much for attending this thing.
Thank you.
For the audience, we'll be back again for another edition of ADC next month. This edition of ADC is recorded and will be available on the YouTube channel. So if you want to listen to the wise words of Aadish here, you can just go on YouTube, get to our channel and get to hear it again. And please do like and share around. Thank you, Aadish, and thanks again.
Thank you, Beats team. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.